All right, guys, so here we are in our next one where we will be looking at manufacturing or purchasing a needed part, better known as make or buy. Okay, so in our make or buy example, before I get into the details of this, a really good example of make or buy is an automobile manufacturer, right? So maybe you can think of a Ford or Kia or Mercedes. They manufacture or assemble tires, radios, motors, interior seats, trans transmissions, and all the other parts to finish an automobile, right? So now the usually the manufacturer has the decision whether they want to make the part, such as the radio and the transmission, or do they want to buy that particular part from a supplier. They must make that decision. Should they outsource it or should they make it themselves? And it all depends on the cost associated with, right? So in our example here, we have a car manufacturer and they're trying to decide whether they should make the panel or they should go to an outsider or outsource it and buy it from a supplier, or buy the panel, right? So in looking at these two alternative number one is to make the panel. So there's no sales price considered because again, we are not going out to buy it, right? We're making it in-house. But the things that we do need to account for is the purchase price, which there is none, the direct materials that's needed, the labor, variable factory overhead, and fixed factory overhead. So in order for us to make this panel, it will cost us a total of $280. Well, alternative number two tells us that, hey, we can maybe go out and to a supplier and buy the same panel. Now, when considering this, we have no sales price, but we need to go out and purchase it. So in order for us to purchase this panel, it's going to be $240 from the supplier. But similar to what we did for unprofitable or discontinuing an unprofitable segment, our fixed costs never change. So whether we make the product in-house or whether we go out to supplier and buy it, our depreciation and property taxes and insurance, that will remain the same no matter what, right? And so that's what you see in this example is our fixed costs, no matter if we make the panel, our fixed costs, no matter if we make the panel or we buy the panel, remains the same. All right. So overall, in looking at these two alternatives, it will make more sense for us to make the panel than to buy the panel because it's cheaper for us to make it than to buy it. It's cheaper by $28 per unit. Okay. All right. So let's go through this example together and see if we can figure out if we want to make it or buy it. Okay. So we have a company manufactures various size plastic bottles for its medicinal product. The manufacturing cost of small bottles is $75 per unit, and then including fixed costs of $28 per unit. A proposal is offered to purchase small bottles from an outside source for $40 per unit plus $4 per freight. All right, so let's go through this one. And I know I have the answers up here, but for a second, I just want to walk you through how did we get these numbers, right? So if we're making a bottle, again, there's no sales cost, and there's no purchase cost, but there is variable costs we need to consider. So it tells us that, let me read through this. Here it is. So it tells us that the manufacturing cost for small bottles is $75 per unit, including a fixed cost of $28. Now, it doesn't explicitly tell you the variable cost, but they're telling you the overall cost of making it is $75, and you have to work backwards. So as you do your homework in your exam, I promise you this will show up. So make sure you read through the questions very slowly and carefully to make sure you can pick up on what they're trying to put out. That just sounds weird. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. All right. So again, they didn't tell you necessarily what the variable cost is, but they told you what the overall cost was and then what portion of that was fixed. So you can back into the number. okay? Remember, no matter if you make or buy the bottle, the fixed factory overhead will always remain the same between the two alternatives. All right, so if we decide to buy the bottles, it tells us that it's going to be $40 per unit plus the $4 in freight. Now, in our prior example, there was no freight included, but remember, if you're going out to an outside vendor, you have to pay for freight, especially if they give you that information in the problem. So the purchase price is the $40, plus we have to include freight, and then again, our fixed factory overhead remains the same between both alternatives. So in looking at these two alternatives, you should realize that, or maybe what you should see is, maybe it's cheaper for us to buy the bottle from the supplier than for us to make it. It is cheaper by $3, right? We're saving $3 if we decide to buy the bottle from the manufacturer or the supplier than to make it. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you. Right. So with that, I am going to move on. Again, the biggest thing that I see students get caught up on is you have to make sure you separate your fixed costs from your variable costs, okay, whenever you do these problems. All right, so with that, I am now going to jump to replacing fixed assets. So in the next video, that's where we'll pick up at.